Over 60? Do not add this to your coffee. It could be silently stealing your strength. Not the coffee itself, that is actually good for you, but what you're adding to it. Every morning, millions of people over 60 unknowingly add ingredients that are quietly weakening their muscles, making their joints ache and setting them up for dangerous falls. But I bring good news. As a nutritionist, after years of research and listening to hundreds of elderly people, I'm going to reveal 7 villains hiding in your morning cup. Some of them you have probably used this week. And the last one, a childhood favorite that feels completely innocent, might shock you the most. By the end of this video, you will know exactly which ingredients are stealing your strength and, more importantly, what to use instead. But first, let me ask you something. Have you noticed it is getting harder to get up from your favorite chair? Or maybe climbing stairs leaves you more winded than it used to? If you are nodding yes, your morning coffee might be part of the problem. One spoonful could be protecting your muscle or destroying them. And the difference is not what you think. Let us start with villain number 1, and this one might be sitting on your counter right now. Artificial creamers, especially the powdered kind, are muscle destroyers disguised as convenience. Here is what is really in that innocent-looking powder: hydrogenated oils, corn syrup solids, and artificial flavors. The hydrogenated oils are the real problem. These create what scientists call chronic low-grade inflammation throughout your body. Think of inflammation as rust forming inside your muscles and joints. When your muscles are constantly fighting inflammation, they cannot focus on what they should be doing, staying strong and repairing themselves. It is like trying to build a house while it is on fire. I worked with Susan, a 71-year-old retired teacher from Michigan. She had been using powdered creamer for over 20 years, thinking it was harmless. But her knee pain kept getting worse, and she was losing strength in her legs. When I suggested she switch to real milk or heavy cream, she was skeptical. "It is just creamer," she said. But within 3 weeks of making the change, Susan called me amazed. The stiffness in my knees has improved, and I am not as tired in the afternoons. Sometimes the smallest changes create the biggest differences. But if you think artificial creamer is bad, wait until you see what liquid sugar does to your muscles. But before we dive in, tell me in the comments what city and country you're watching from. Plus, I have put together an ebook with 5 coffee tricks and preparations that can change your quality of life and boost your energy. Link in the first comment. Villain number 2 is flavored syrups. Those tempting bottles of vanilla, caramel, and hazelnut that turn your coffee into liquid candy. Each pump delivers a concentrated blast of sugar directly into your bloodstream. Here is the muscle-destroying science. When you flood your system with liquid sugar first thing in the morning, your insulin levels spike dramatically. This is not just about diabetes risk, though that is serious too. High insulin levels tell your body to store fat and actually break down muscle tissue for energy instead of building it up. But here is the cruel part. After that initial sugar high, your blood sugar crashes, leaving you more tired and craving more sugar. It is a vicious cycle that keeps your muscles in a constant state of breakdown rather than repair. Recent research from the Journal of Nutrition showed that people over 60 who consumed high amounts of added sugars lost muscle mass 40% faster than those who limited their sugar intake. That is almost half again as fast. And what happens when your muscles swim in sugar daily? They literally shrink instead of growing. Every syrup pump is like taking a tiny step backward from the strength you want to maintain. Speaking of sugar, disguised as something else, let us talk about those convenient all-in-one coffee mixes. Villain number 3 looks so convenient. Those 3-in-1 cappuccino mixes that promise to give you coffee, creamer, and sweetener all in one packet. But convenience comes at a steep price for your muscles. Let me read you what is actually in these packets. Sugar, partially hydrogenated oil, corn syrup, artificial flavors, and somewhere near the bottom, a little bit of actual coffee. You are basically drinking a chemistry experiment that happens to taste like coffee. These mixes give you false energy, a quick burst followed by a dramatic crash that leaves you weaker than when you started. Your muscles need steady, sustained nutrition, not these roller coaster rides. Michael, a 68-year-old from Texas, came to me frustrated. He had been drinking cappuccino mix every morning for years, but felt like his energy was getting worse, not better. "I do not understand it," he said. "I drink coffee for energy, but by 10 a.m. I feel like I need a nap." When I explained what was in his morning mix, he decided to switch to plain coffee with a tablespoon of pure cacao powder. 3 weeks later, Michael told me something I will never forget. Climbing the stairs to my bedroom no longer feels like carrying a bag of bricks. I actually have energy that lasts all morning. Now, you might think switching to artificial sweeteners solves the sugar problem, but villain number 4 will surprise you. Villain number 4 is tricky because it masquerades as the healthy choice: artificial sweeteners. Now, I'm not saying all artificial sweeteners are evil, but using them excessively can confuse your body in ways that actually accelerate muscle loss. Here is the surprising science. Your body has learned over thousands of years that sweet taste means energy is coming. When you flood your system with intense artificial sweetness multiple times a day, you confuse these ancient signals. Your brain expects calories and nutrients that never arrive. This confusion leads to increased cravings for real sugar, disrupted insulin sensitivity, and something called metabolic confusion. Your body stops trusting its own signals about when to build muscle and when to break it down. Think of it this way. If someone kept promising to bring you groceries but never showed up, eventually you would stop believing them and start hoarding whatever food you had. Your body does the same thing with muscle tissue when it is constantly confused by artificial sweetness. Studies have shown that people who use artificial sweeteners heavily are actually at higher risk for developing insulin resistance, which directly accelerates sarcopenia, the medical term for age-related muscle loss. I'm not saying you can never use artificial sweeteners, but if you are adding multiple packets or squirts to every cup of coffee, your muscles are paying the price. But if you think artificial sweeteners are confusing to your body, wait until you see what happens when coffee becomes dessert. Villain number 5 transforms your morning coffee from a health drink into a milkshake. I'm talking about whipped cream, caramel drizzle, chocolate shavings, turning your coffee into what is essentially dessert for breakfast. A typical dessert coffee can pack 400 to 600 calories of pure sugar and saturated fat. That is like eating a piece of cake with your coffee. But here is the muscle-destroying part. These are empty calories that create massive inflammation while providing zero nutrition for muscle building. When you start your day with this inflammatory bomb, your body spends the entire morning fighting internal fires instead of building and repairing muscle tissue. It is like trying to exercise while someone is constantly punching you in the stomach. Every dollop of whipped cream, every drizzle of syrup is telling your muscles, "We do not have time to make you stronger today. We are too busy dealing with this sugar emergency." The worst part? This inflammation does not just last an hour. It can persist for 6 to 8 hours, meaning your muscles are in breakdown mode for most of your waking day. But there is an even bigger danger when coffee turns into dessert, and it involves something you might not expect. Villain number 6 might seem harmless because it is just for special occasions: adding alcohol to coffee. Irish coffee, a splash of Bailey's, coffee liqueur, or just a little something to make the morning more enjoyable. Here is what happens inside your body when you combine alcohol with caffeine, especially after age 60. Your liver gets overwhelmed. It has to process the alcohol, metabolize the caffeine, and try to do its regular job of supporting muscle protein synthesis. Something has to give. Alcohol directly interferes with muscle protein synthesis, the process your body uses to build and repair muscle tissue. Even small amounts can reduce this process by up to 37% for several hours. That is more than 1/3 of your muscle building capacity gone. But the damage goes deeper. Alcohol disrupts your sleep quality, and deep sleep is when your body does most of its muscle repair work. Poor sleep plus reduced protein synthesis equals accelerated muscle loss. Mary, a 74-year-old grandmother from Florida, loved her weekend Irish coffee tradition. It is just 2 days a week, she told me, but she was concerned about her declining energy and balance issues. When I explained how alcohol was affecting her muscle recovery, she reluctantly agreed to try weekends without it. 6 weeks later, Mary called me with excitement in her voice. "I am sleeping deeper, my energy is more consistent, and I feel steadier on my feet." I did not realize how much those weekend drinks were affecting my entire week. Now, we have covered 6 muscle-stealing villains, but none of them compare to the most common one, a powder you probably grew up with, a powder that feels innocent, but is quietly stealing your strength every single morning. Everything I have shared so far pales in comparison to what I am about to reveal. This 7th villain is the most insidious because it is the most trusted. It has been in kitchens for generations. Parents gave it to their children. Grandparents smile when they see it. It carries the emotional weight of comfort, tradition, and love, which makes it the perfect disguise for a muscle destroyer. This ingredient has convinced millions of people over 60 that they are doing something good for themselves, when in reality, they are accelerating their own physical decline. You might be using it right now. You might have used it this morning. And if you did, your muscles paid the price, even though you had no idea. Are you ready to discover the most common muscle-stealing villain hiding in your coffee cup? Villain number 7 is sweetened chocolate powder, the kind most of us grew up with, the kind that turns milk into chocolate milk, the kind that makes coffee taste like childhood comfort. Brands like Nesquik, Ovaltine, or any chocolate powder that lists sugar as the first or second ingredient. Here's the shocking truth. Most chocolate powders contain 70 to 80% sugar and only 10 to 20% actual cocoa. You are essentially adding flavored sugar to your coffee and calling it chocolate. But the muscle destruction goes far beyond just the sugar content. This combination of processed sugar and artificial ingredients creates what researchers call glycation, a process where sugar molecules literally stick to your muscle proteins, making them stiff and non-functional. It is like rust forming inside your muscle fibers. But here's the part that really breaks my heart. This inflammatory response does not just weaken your muscles, it also weakens your bones. The high sugar content leaches calcium from your bones and interferes with protein absorption, creating a double attack on your strength and stability. That spoonful of chocolate powder you have been adding since childhood, thinking it is harmless comfort, it is actually stealing your independence, one cup at a time. Every morning, you're unknowingly choosing weakness over strength. Let me tell you about Mr. Thompson, a 76-year-old retired mechanic from Ohio. Mr. Thompson had been adding chocolate powder to his coffee for over 50 years. "It is my one little pleasure," he told me when his daughter brought him to see me. Mr. Thompson was struggling with weak legs and constant stiffness. When I suggested replacing his sweetened chocolate powder with pure cacao, just for 1 month, he was resistant. "You want to take away the one thing that makes my morning coffee enjoyable?" But his daughter convinced him to try. 3 months later, Mr. Thompson told me something that still gives me chills. I feel stronger in my legs, my stiffness is better, and I have more energy throughout the day. I cannot believe something so simple made such a difference. The difference between sweetened chocolate powder and pure cacao is like the difference between candy and medicine. One destroys, the other heals. And remember, in the first link in the comments, you can access an ebook with 5 coffee tricks and preparations that can change your quality of life and increase your energy. Now that you know the 7 villains stealing your strength, let us talk about hope. Your coffee does not have to be your enemy. It can actually become your most powerful ally in building and maintaining muscle. Instead of those muscle-destroying additives, try these strength-building alternatives. Pure cacao powder for antioxidants and muscle support, Ceylon cinnamon for blood sugar control, a pinch of turmeric for anti-inflammatory power, or collagen peptides for direct muscle building support. Real cream or whole milk provides protein and healthy fats your muscles actually need. A touch of honey or pure maple syrup gives you natural sweetness without the inflammatory bomb of processed sugar. Every morning you have a choice. You can continue adding ingredients that steal your strength, or you can choose ingredients that build it back up. The power is literally in your hands, and it starts with your very next cup of coffee. Your strength does not have to be a thing of the past. With the right morning choices, you can wake up to a stronger, more energetic version of yourself. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 7 villains have you been guilty of adding to your coffee? Be honest in the comments below. There is no judgment here. Only learning and growing stronger together. And here's my challenge for you. Pick just one villain from this list and eliminate it from your coffee for the next 7 days. Just one. Do not try to change everything at once. Small, consistent changes create lasting strength. If you want to know exactly what to add to your coffee instead, ingredients that can actually help rebuild muscle fast after 60. Remember, in the first link in the comments, you can access an ebook with 5 coffee tricks and preparations that can change your quality of life and increase your energy. I will show you the 5 specific ingredients that have helped thousands of people over 60 regain strength they thought was gone forever. Remember, knowledge without action is just entertainment. But knowledge with action, that is transformation. Here's to making your morning coffee a strength-building ritual instead of a muscle-stealing habit. Thanks for watching, and here's to stronger days ahead.